In a small, quiet town, there was a family living in a peaceful corner of the city. They had a 12-year-old son named Alex, who was in sixth grade. Alex was an active kid who loved playing outside, and his favorite thing to do was play soccer. Almost every day, he would head to the nearby public field to practice his skills. One day, after returning from school, Alex flopped down on the couch, lost in thought. He opened his school book, glanced at it for a moment, and then leaned back. Alex was slumped on the soft pillows, looking really down. His dad, who had just walked in from the garden, noticed something was off and went over to him. He asked why Alex seemed so upset. Alex explained that he got a bad grade in math, but that wasn't what was really bothering him. He said his best friend and neighbor, Liam, always aced his math tests, and no matter how hard Alex tried, he just couldn't keep up. When his dad heard that, he went to get a glass of water to calm his son down. When Alex relaxed a bit, his dad took him to the little park behind the house, which was full of shady trees and had a peaceful vibe. Alex's dad started saying, "I want you to understand 3 important lessons from what happened today. These lessons will guide you as you grow up." Alex, who really respected his dad, felt a bit confused but was interested. He asked, "Can you explain these lessons to me, Dad?" His dad replied, "You'll learn each lesson one by one through a challenge I'm going to give you." The dad smiled sweetly after a moment of hesitation. He said, "For the first lesson, I want you to invite Liam to play soccer with you tomorrow." Alex nodded eagerly because he knew what his dad was getting at. The next morning, the weather was sunny and cheerful. Alex went to school as usual, excited. After school, he invited Liam to join him for a soccer match at the nearby field. As usual, Alex, who plays soccer almost every day, dominated the game and scored 3 goals. His team scored a big victory, while Liam, who didn't really know soccer well, struggled a bit. He kept losing the ball and making a lot of mistakes. Still, everyone who played today had a great time. After that, Alex cleaned up quickly and went to meet his dad in the park. He said, "Dad, I played soccer with Liam today. What's the first lesson you want to teach me?" Alex's dad smiled, knowing what had happened. He said, "Tell me how the game went." Alex described everything, including his 3 goals and how Liam wasn't doing so well with the soccer. Alex's dad nodded. "Check this out, Alex. Liam might not be great at soccer, but he's really good at math. Just like how you might struggle with math, but shine on the soccer field. Everyone's different, and that's totally fine. We all have our strengths and passions." Alex felt a wave of understanding wash over him and realized that people are different, and they don't all have to be the same. But, being curious as always, he asked about the second lesson. For the second round, his dad told him, "I want you to keep an eye on Liam at school tomorrow and observe. How many times did you see Liam counting or working with numbers?" The next day, Alex went to school excited to continue his dad's challenge. All day, he quietly watched Liam and noticed how often he was busy with math. After school, Alex spent some time playing soccer until his dad came home. Alex went up to his dad and said, "Hey Dad, Liam was counting a lot today. He was solving math problems, working on puzzles, and even calculating things like money." During the break, Alex counted the flower petals, and his dad smiled warmly and said, "That's lesson number 2. Alex is really good at math because he enjoys it and practices a lot. If you want to get better at something, you have to keep practicing, just like you do with soccer. Not everything has to be hard. You can start with simple things like counting flower petals." Alex smiled, realizing that he could improve at anything as long as he practiced regularly, just like he did with soccer. Ali eagerly asked about the third and final lesson. His dad thought for a moment and said, "For the last lesson, I want you to think about how much better Liam is than you at math." Ali paused for a second and then hesitantly replied, "I think Liam is like 3 times better than me at math." His dad said, "All right, for the final challenge, I want you to study math seriously 3 times harder tomorrow." Ali swallowed nervously but nodded, determined to take on the final challenge after school tomorrow. He sat down to study math, and after an hour of intense focus, he decided to keep going and study for another 2 hours, really pushing himself. But before he could finish, he started to get a headache and, without realizing it, dozed off. His dad gently woke him up by tapping his shoulder and said, "Get up for lunch and meet me in the garden later." His dad felt disappointed in himself. Alex faced his dad with his head down and said, "I'm sorry, Dad, I couldn't finish the challenge. I studied so much that my head started hurting." In the end, he closed his eyes and fell asleep. His dad put his hand on Alex's head and said, "Hey, Alex, this is what happens when you try to master something you don't enjoy. It's tough to stay disciplined and keep at it. But when you study something you love, that discipline and consistency comes so much easier. Just like how you stick with playing soccer." After a short silence, his dad gave him one last piece of advice. If you want to be smart and become an expert at something, either study what you love or learn to love what you're studying. Alex's lesson was all about admiring his dad's wisdom. He promised to carry those 3 important lessons with him for the rest of his life. The moral of the story: if you want to stand out in something, you either need to love what you do or find joy in learning it. Everyone has their strengths, and practice means progress.